Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to another episode of Take a Stand for Trinidad and Tobago. I know that this is a difficult time for all of us. We have more debts, we have more expenses, and it really feels sometimes like, there's no hope for overcoming these difficult times, overcoming these trials and tribulations that we have to face every single day. So I want to really thank you for taking the time to listen to this show and for joining us in taking a real and factual look at the problems facing the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, today's show will cover two topics: freedom and independence. Are they the same thing, or are they diametrically opposed to each other? Let us start with freedom. Now, according to the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, we as citizens are supposed to have the freedom of association and the freedom of speech. But here's what. As we begin celebrating the 59th anniversary of independence, the reality is that we are under a state of emergency. As we all know by now, the state of emergency was extended last week. And officially, what they said is that it is to protect us, quote unquote, from the spread of COVID-19. Just as a side note, I do want to congratulate the 500,000 people who would have taken the vaccine so far. Now, when we think of a state of emergency, how many of us remember the state of emergency of 2011? People were in an uproar. People were disappointed. People were angry. Not enough being done against corruption, not enough constitutional reform, and no reform of labor legislation. In fact, Labour was mobilizing against the 5% wage cap in 2011. The state of emergency then, as now, was an attempt to do nothing else but to silence trade unions. Today in 2021, interestingly enough, exactly 10 years later, only trade unions are standing up to the PNM's agenda of retrenchment and mismanagement. There are other voices of dissent. I'm not saying that there aren't. However, it is only the combined strength of the three trade union federations that are looking at the real economic conditions of the majority of people in Trinidad and Tobago and saying that enough is enough. Now, in spite of the continuing state of emergency, the combined trade union federations have organized a protest action where the trade union leaders are coming out to make a clear statement on September the 1st. Trade union leaders will be on the streets on Freedom Day on September the 1st. What I am asking you to do is to amplify and add to that. When you see any pictures or video of the Freedom Day activity on your trade union's social media page, amplify. When you see any news coverage, amplify. When you see us passing in the road on Wednesday, amplify, share, repost, amplify the message that the people of Trinidad and Tobago are under pressure and that we will not keep going down this road of poverty and oppression. Amplify the action, because if you don't, then we are sending a different message. We're sending a message that we are comfortable. We're sending a message that we accept and we consent to what the government is doing, when in fact, we do not consent. We do not accept. I am also asking you to add your voice to this action. Add your struggle. When you share something on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok on Wednesday, add your story to Freedom Day. Tell us what you're struggling with. If you're a worker whose job is in danger because of privatization or even mandatory vaccination, whether you're a TNTech worker, a NP worker, a TSTT worker, a postal worker, a WASA worker, add your voice. These voice collectively shows strength. If you know that removing the gas subsidy will hurt you, add your voice. If you know that raising water and electricity rates will hurt you, add your voice. They are already doing their best, that is the government, to squash Freedom Day. Remember that there is strength in numbers. Help yourself, help your neighbor, help your comrades by adding your voice to Freedom Day. The second topic for today is independence. Tomorrow, on the 31st of August, we are going to be celebrating the 59th year of our independence from the United Kingdom. The story of independence, however, goes back quite a far way in our history. You see, there are really two different trends in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. There is one trend towards governing Trinidad and Tobago for the benefit of the people, and there is an opposite trend of creating a system that benefits just a few overseers and plantation owners and allows for the profits to go outside the country while the people are exploited. When there was slavery and the plantation system, there were rebellions and escapes. When there was indentureship, which was designed to continue the plantation system just without chattel slavery, oppression led to resistance like the Jose riots. It wasn't always a forward movement to greater independence. Tobago, for example, used to be separate from Trinidad and had a degree of home rule with their own legislative council. After the working class uprisings, however, the Tobago Legislative Council, made up of, guess who, the overseer class, the oppressive class, decided to dissolve themselves, and Tobago became a crown colony, just like Trinidad, ruled from England. When we jump forward to the 1900s, we see the trade union movement pushing for home rule. This is the era of Arthur Cipriani, Adrian Cola Rienzi. It was the era of people like Tubal, Uriah, Buzz Butler. They saw that the only way to improve conditions for the working class was for the working class to have a say in how Trinidad and Tobago would be governed. Pushing back against the home rule and the labor movement with the sugar companies and the oil companies. You see, they wanted to be able to call in British security forces like the Navy and the soldiers to basically do what? To keep workers in line, to keep the masses in line, to keep our foreparents in line. They absolutely wanted to keep the plantation system that exploited workers to create what? Profits for the owners and cushy jobs for the overseers. All this debate came to an end with the labor uprisings of the 1930s. From Belize to Trinidad, all the West Indian colonies rose up. So the British government sent out what is called the Moyne Commission. To avoid more uprising, political change was needed. The plan was home rule, federation, and then independence. In other words, it took uprisings, it took rebellion to bring about political change. Universal suffrage and home rule came in 1946. The Butler Party was very dominant in that era. The West Indies Federation, that was supposed to take us to independence. It lasted from 1958 to 1962. When the Federation broke up, a move that really benefited the overseer class, that became the political class, Trinidad and Tobago sought independence from the United Kingdom. That took effect in 1962. But what is the legacy of independence of 1962? Well, within a decade, there was a popular uprising. Here we go again. Another uprising. The people of Trinidad and Tobago saw that racism, a holdover from the colonial rule, would not let them live full and dignified lives, would not allow them to live a decent life with a decent job, to dream of a future for their children and grandchildren and be able to have a job that will allow them to do that. That led very quickly to what became the Black Power movement between 1962 and 1968. That led to the state of emergency in 1970. It led to the arrest of several trade union leaders. including former President General of the OWTO, Comrade George Weeks. You also had the mutiny when Rafik Shah and Rex Lascelles realized that they could be called upon to attack peaceful protesters, their fellow citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Instead of violence against the people, those ex-soldiers, Comrade Rafik Shah, Rex Lascelles, chose mutiny. It was not independence and the political class that took the people forward in socio-economic development. Let's be clear about that. It was the Black Power movement. It was the mass movement. It was people mobilized in the streets. And the trade union movement standing shoulder to shoulder in that mass movement, giving it fire, giving it strength, giving it unity in order to give the people the power and the means to move forward in what could be considered a more fair and just society. Today, we still have this back and forth between people moving for progressive development and broad-based development that will lift the masses out of poverty and exploitation. And then you have those who feel that no, you need to keep people in poverty and completely exploit their labor, strip them away of decent terms and conditions, dismantle the life support infrastructure that is to benefit everyone. In other words, we have reactionary movements, in particular those in government, where people are saying profits are the only measure of development. Profits are the only thing that matter. They put profit before people. And that is what the Prime Minister and the PNM government represents. Profit before people. On the eve of independence, which side is winning? Well, right after Independence Day, 31st of August 2021, we are going to have Freedom Day, 1st of September 2021. And Freedom Day is just the beginning of a sustained campaign against a vision of society which pushes the masses to the fringes and pull profit only to the center. As most people suffer, big companies declaring hundreds of millions of dollars in profit. And to make matters worse and to add insult to injury, in the face of that contradiction, rather than the Prime Minister come to tell the country how he is going to resolve that contradiction, how is he going to lead this country to a place where people can feel a little more certain of their future, he tells them what? He's going to remove fuel subsidy. If not now, when? When will we really take a stand? At what point? What is the breaking point? Increase food prices, increase rent, loss of your job, loss of income, increase in fuel, which would lead to even more increase in goods and services, increase in the prices of basic household items. You can't even go to the hardware and buy some nails or some steel or anything. All of that gone up. So then what really will be the breaking point when we say, as a people, enough is enough? That vision that you want to transform this country into one in which people are at the fringe, we don't want it. We don't accept it. And we certainly do not consent to it. So, join us on Freedom Day. Join us on September the 1st. Thank you, and have a very good afternoon.